Guest is a whimsical storyteller and a speaker with a focus on comedy and humanity, and she's even written her own show. Please welcome Danielle Marivette Hernandez to tell us a little bit more. And Danielle, tell us about you and about the show that you've written.
Happily. Hello, everyone. I'm Danielle Marivette Hernandez, and my show, Danielle XX, is my culmination of knowing I was going to grow up and be a woman one day, and having expectations, and then having experiences, and realizing those two did not correlate. So it focuses on observations of myself, observations of the body, and even further than that, just relationships between people from now and a millennia ago, which were very different. But we hold a lot of those expectations for ourselves still today.
Yeah. Why did you write this show? I mean, everybody in truth has a story, correct?
I think so.
So why did you write yours?
I hope so. Well, I always knew that I had this story in me. Truthfully, this story came out because I wanted to take a trip to Australia. And I was like, the best way to make money is to put on a show. But I always knew the title was going to be Danielle XX. I always saw those two X's and me sort of behind them. And I also knew I wanted to talk about women that I grew up with, women that I aspired to be, everything I admired, things that I was afraid of, and also this confounding confusion that people still hold about women, their bodies, and the rules imposed on them because of this.
Now, you mentioned the XX. Is there a significance behind that XX?
Absolutely. Everything in this show has meaning. And I start with that everything holds meaning for us, but because we're all different people, the same image and the same symbol is going to have different meaning for all of us. So the XX is absolutely intentional. It's about women. It's about our expectations, our experiences, being allowed to explore what we want in our lives. All of that is tied into a single title.
Who's your target audience for this show?
Well, basically anyone who's got a human body. I like to focus on the 12 and up genre because that's when our bodies begin to change and our perceptions of ourselves begin to change. Ideally with adults, with your parents with you, because it is about growing up and what we don't talk about. So I think the college circuit in particular would be my target audience to begin with. And then from there, see who else is willing to tap into the material.
So what's been the response to your shows thus far?
Ooh, I have to say it's been remarkably pleasant. I have a lot of reservations because this material has been so guarded for so long. But anytime I've presented it, whoever has watched has told me that it really made them reflect on what they absorbed as a child and took on and didn't think about. It made them think about what was important to them when they were younger and still is, but in a new way that sort of connects them to take action steps again. I look forward to seeing what future responses will be as well.
Is that what you're hoping to get, that type of response from the folks who see your show, to get them to think about things that they've been through or maybe have hidden back underneath somewhere?
Absolutely. I'm really hoping to peel back the layers and also the walls. We are all protecting ourselves so much because we were taught to. And those layers of protection can also be barriers to letting in the exact thing that we want. So when I invite you to sit with me and let you tell you about my dreams and those symbols, I'm actually asking you to hang up your expectations, your thoughts and beliefs, just put them aside for a moment and dive deep with me. And when we do that, it allows my audience to see without those filters of judgment acting out. They might still be chatting in the back of their mind, but it won't be the forefront. And that is the key, that they are allowed to absorb the material by letting it be my story, not theirs.
So if there were no controversial women's health care laws being threatened or anything like that, would this be as successful as it has been thus far?
Oh, that is such a great question. Has there ever been a time when there hasn't been stringent healthcare rules about women's bodies in particular? Not in my lifetime or any lifetime I've spoken about. And that's what I want to ask. If we can crack open and move past these distractions of being threatened all the time for, being a physical human, how dare we? But if we can get past that, then we can look at what's beyond. And what is beyond that is our relationships to each other, to the world. Every interaction's a relationship. Even this right now, we're having a brief relationship. We're bonding and we're sharing things, and it's going to impact us moving forward. So how can we do that in a way that fosters open communication and allows us to actually be present in the space?
Do you think this is a good show for mom and adolescent daughter to go and take in, and it kind of opens the door to something that could be an uncomfortable situation for a mom to be in, but they need to open these doors and talk about these subjects?
Oh, yes. I have spoken to my own mother about this many times because I am a daughter and she was a daughter. And so a lot of this comes from what I learned from my mother's perspective. My family is surrounded by women. So that was the first lens I viewed the world. And mothers and daughters have often been pitted against each other in a tragic way, but not in a way that is intentional, not in a way where a mother is intending to hurt their daughter. It was all about the constraints of the society we're raised in, and then how a mother must condition her daughter to survive in that realm. But if we change the conversation, we can change the realm we're living in. And as for it being uncomfortable, growth often is. I get uncomfortable, and I'm the performer choosing to put this up on stage. And only by admitting that do I give everyone else permission to feel their discomfort too. Okay, yeah, we're growing out of our shells to find a new and bigger world.
Danielle, I've got to ask, you brought up your mom. Has she been to your show? And if so, what does she think about it?
Oh, absolutely. My mother has been to all the shows that I've performed when it comes to Danielle XX. And a lot of it she knew about. Some of it she was surprised by. For example, I share a sneaking out story. I was just in college. I experienced sneaking out for the first time. And as I wrote about that, I realized I don't think my parents knew about that one. Surprise!
Was she okay with it now?
Oh, she laughed. She laughed, but she also felt like you didn't have to sneak out. You could have told us. But I didn't know. And that's the other thing, that there's so much that we're expected to know by a certain point, but may not be directly told. And so how are we supposed to find that harmony of getting the knowledge and then learning about ourselves, acting as ourselves and not just what people want of us? So even in doing this show, it's been a learning curve, and it's grown with me as I've continued to do it.
So are you only doing the show, or are you also doing motivational speaking and kind of telling your story?
Yes, my show exists in its own context, and then I exist as a storyteller and performer outside of that. So I do stand up, I do comedy, I do motivational speaking, and I use segments from the show in those things. In fact, the first scene I wrote was a parody scene on Adam and Eve, and I enjoyed it so much that it became one of the premise of this, because I realized how much of that story I blamed myself for, even though I was not there. But there it is, living inside of me.
Interesting. So if folks want to see your show or even hear you speak or get you to speak to their group, how do they get in touch with you?
Oh, the best way to find me is go online, find my social media. That is at Des Marivette, DezMarivette. to find this specific Danielle Hernandez and reach out, because I'd love to bring my show to you, to your realm, and anyone who's interested in general in talking with me. Holding open space for these conversations is the goal.
Well, Danielle, thanks so much for joining us. Look forward to finding where you will be and going and seeing this show. Sounds interesting. Thanks, Danielle.
And a pleasure.